Alright, today we have the Mystic installment of the Awakening Gem Guide, and this one was just oh so fun to make. A bit of a story time here. I was gonna make the Cosmic Awakening Guide, like after the tech one, but it was just really dang stressful, so I was like, you know what? Let me just do the Mystic one instead, because surely the Mystic one is easier than the Cosmic one, right? Absolutely not. This one was by far the hardest one to make. This one is so difficult. But yeah, very stressful time, but I got it done finally. So now we have the 6 categories here of generic worthy, class worthy again, but just a bit lesser. Then there's the defensive signature abilities, as well as the fun investments, and then just the I wouldn't bother tier. And there is one category missing here, and it is the amazing champions with okay signature abilities, and that is because the Mystic class just doesn't have any of those. Yeah, all the good champions have either very strong sig abilities or very weak signature abilities. There's just no in between, I feel like. Also, another note real quick, Magic is not in this list, but if you want to know my thoughts on her, she is easily class worthy. So if you have a 5-star gem and you're still progressing and you have a Magic, I think she is definitely worth the class gem. And high sig is great for her. So first, the icons. So the arrow up means that high sig is wanted or needed, and the shield means that there is more defensive value if the champion is awakened. So now let's talk about the generic options. First up is the Absorbing Man, and this guy is just making waves in the contest already. And though he's new, he is still just so powerful. And the way his signature ability works is, he gets up to plus 40% form duration, and with his morph charges scaling with his form duration left, it just provides a lot more morph charges, and it just makes him a lot easier to play as well in those non-ideal matchups. Additionally, he gets a massive regen that's based off of missing health, so on defense he is just an absolute menace. He has to get nerfed actually on defense because of the regen. It is quite the crazy time. But yeah, Absman just so good on both attack and defense, and this generic gem worthy ability just gives him a lot more value overall because it makes him a lot easier to play. It gives him some extra morph charges, and it gives him a lot of powerful defensive use. So yeah, Absorbing Man, generic worthy 100%. Now we have Tigra here, and Tigra, big warning here. If you do not want to master Tigra, then she is not worth a generic gem. She is very hard to master, and she does require a lot of practice. So if you do not want that, then do not generic this champion because she is just not worth it for you. However, if you want to master this champion, she is 1000% worth a generic gem because this character is just absolutely crazy. Tigra is insane. She is one of the strongest damage dealers in the game. She has insane buff control. She is just a powerhouse. She is so strong. And when she is awakened, she starts off the fight just being already insane because she gets both of her senses up for a pretty good amount of time at max sig. And like I said, her senses give her everything. They give her power gain, they give her damage output. They just do so much for her. And without the awakened ability, you have to do 2 SP1s to get all your forms up. And that is a pretty major time loss, especially in Battlegrounds. So her awakened ability is just very important in my opinion, and it is 1000% worth a generic gem, only if you want to master her. But yeah, Tigra, Absorbing Man, my generic options here in this list. And now let's talk about the class options for the Mystic class. And we have quite the interesting squadron here. So first up is Rintrah, and Rintrah has a very interesting signature ability. So what his does is, whenever he fails a buff, he gets a power gain buff. And this can be of pretty dang high potency, right? Additionally, whenever he is hit while unstoppable, he regens a lot of health back. And this includes hits onto the block. So whenever he is rooted and he is unstoppable, he gets a pretty nice regen there as well. So this is great on both attack and defense. So when it's used on attack, he gets some massive power gain, which just lets him cycle SP2s, and it's just a very nice time. Now, there is a lot of debate about Rintrah at 6200. One side is saying that it is too much power gain, the other side saying it is just fine. And I feel like it is just, it can be a lot at times, but it also is pretty rare for it to be too much. And additionally, you can just play around it, I feel like. but it also isn't really needed, right? So like Sig 1, Sig 100 is fine. Sig 200 though becomes a lot more annoying on defense for sure. But yeah, Rintrah, great champion, great signature ability as well, just an overall powerhouse with his neutralize, his pretty nice damage output, his massive tankiness, and with his signature ability, his crazy power gain and regen. Now we have Dr. Doom, and Dr. Doom is still, in my opinion, one of the best, if not just the best Mystic champion still. This man is still absolutely crazy, and his signature ability is also very, very good. So what it does is, whenever he nullifies a power gain buff, he gets one of his own, which is pretty sweet, and additionally, whenever he nullifies a buff and there is not a shock on the opponent, he inflicts one onto them. This is great. This is just honestly insane because it lets him cheese some fights for sure, like the infinite heavy attack cheese, the usual stuff. It is just very good in that regard, and additionally, it just lets him have his shock up at all times pretty much, which is great for like the stagger and just, any shock lane as well. It is just a pretty nice time, and additionally, it lets him be pretty annoying on defense too, because sometimes the Aura of Hazareth nullifies a buff, the opponent gets shocked, he like one-shots you with a heavy attack. It is not the best time out there, right? So yeah, Dr. Doom, great champion. When he's awakened, even better. And with just how good he is, I feel like he is worth a class gem overall. And next up is a very old gem, but still a fantastic champion. I feel like this champion just gets better with time, and it is just insane. So this is original Scarlet Witch, and her awakened ability is just so good. What it does is, whenever she crits, she has a chance to proc a lot of buffs, one buff, one debuff maybe, just a lot of random stuff, right? And it can just lead to some insane things. It is just absolutely crazy sometimes. And this is Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch has always been a very RNG dependent character, but it's all thanks to the awakened ability. So it is worth the class gem for sure. She really wants Max Sig too, but when she is awakened, she just becomes an absolute powerhouse. She is so good still. Her Nullify is just so strong as well. She just has a lot of nice tricks still. And her damage output is just pretty dang great as well. So Scarlet Witch, fantastic champion, 1000% worth the class gem, and she is still a very strong character. Trust me, she is still super good even in 2023. Next up is Diablo, and when this man is awakened, he gets a pretty nice benefit. So whenever he is poisoned, he gets damage res, just straight up damage res. It is so strong. It is up to 30%, I believe, or 25%. And whenever he poisons the opponent, he gets increased attack rating. So it is just a great two-way signature ability on both, the tank spectrum and the attacking spectrum. It is just so strong. And Diablo is just a great champion at base, so adding this as well just makes him even crazier. Diablo, great champion, great ability, 1000% worth of class gem in my opinion. Next up is Mojo, and this man is still an absolute blast. He is so much fun to play, and when he's awakened, he just becomes a godly quester. So what it does is, he can persist followers like throughout the quest, and whenever he hits 5 million followers, he gets a massive fury buff. It is of I think 200% potency, so it is just a massive damage bonus for him, and it lets him be actually usable in quest. So Mojo, great ability, great champion with his anti-life field and his great sustainability as well. Just a very solid character, and the Awakening just does so much for him overall, so I think it is worth a class gem for sure. Next up is Wiccan, and Wiccan gets a massive benefit. So whenever he drops CSB2, inflicts shocks, if the opponent is immune to shocks, he inflicts degens instead. And additionally, whenever he consumes an incinerate and a shock to form a plasma, there is a chance that the shocks don't get consumed at all. So that is just super valuable because it is a very nice damage increase overall. He also can block unblockable attacks from cosmic characters while he has his shield up, so it is just a very great signature ability, and at max sig it becomes a massive damage bonus too. And Wiccan is just great already with his neutralize and his pretty good damage output, so adding all this utility and damage is just a very good investment, so I feel like it is worth a class gem for sure. And next up is Spider-Man Supreme, and this guy is a sleeper champion 1000%. He is so strong, And when he's awakened, he gets a massive benefit. So what it does is he gets bonuses on his spells. So the biggest one here is the energy damage one. He gets increased potency on his burst of energy damage up to 50%, which is just a very nice bonus. And additionally, he gets extra power gain whenever he misses an attack in his astral form. And last but not least, he gets extra potency on his stolen buffs. So it is a pretty nice investment for an already great champion. And if you want to see the maximum potential of Spider-Man Supreme, you want this at Mag Sig for sure. But yeah, Spider-Man Supreme is a great character. He has a lot of utility, a pretty good set of damage output, and when he's awakened, he just gets more firepower, so it is a great investment for sure. And next up is Juggernaut. This man is a monster. He is so strong on Battlegrounds attack, it is just not even funny, man. And he's going to be a 7-star. That is the crazy part. This dude is just so powerful, and when he's awakened, he gets even more utility. So what it does is, each unstoppable buff on Juggernaut gives him an up to 3% chance to nullify buff off the opponent, which is 30% whenever he has all 10 of his buffs. That is pretty dang solid. That is like actually very, very good. It lets him take a lot of fights like much better, and it is a pretty good investment, I feel like, because Juggernaut is just a crazy champion. You will use him all the time pretty much, so having that ability as well is just a very solid investment. And additionally, whenever his gem is removed and he gets a weakness passive, it turns into a weakness debuff and it loses a lot of potency at Mag Sig. So it is a great investment for sure. The Nullify is just fantastic, and Juggernaut by himself is already great, but with this awakened ability is just even better, right? And next up is the Hood, and the Hood is so strong. Whenever he's awakened, he gets stun immunity while he is invisible, as well as a chance to power steal the opponent. This makes him a very solid power controller, and even at low sig, it still is pretty dang viable, and it just makes him pretty annoying on defense too, because the stun immunity is not fun in the slightest. So it does a good amount for him, but the Hood is just crazy. He is just so strong overall. He has so much damage output, he has so much utility as well, and I think he is definitely worth a class gem. So these are my top class gem contenders. Now let's see the secondary contenders for a class gem. So for Sorcerer Supreme, she can get increased ability accuracy, and her blessings get increased potency as well, which is a great benefit for her, both damage and utility wise. So it is a pretty nice investment for sure. And Sorcerer Supreme is still pretty solid, so this is just helping out an already good champion. And next up is Wong. Wong gets a very solid benefit because whenever he starts the fight, he starts the fight with one of his spells active. And this does a lot for him overall because his spells are just his biggest form of both utility and damage output, right? So having one immediately just does a lot for him. Additionally, he can just nullify indestructible abilities just flat out, and immortality, so bye-bye Hercules. So it is a pretty nice thing for sure. And Wong, pretty cool character, so I think it is definitely worth a gem if you like the champion. Next up is Longshot, and Longshot is a very interesting one for sure because there are some debates on if it does help or hurt him. But honestly, I feel like it does help him in the wider aspect of things because it makes him a defensive powerhouse for sure. What it does is it has a chance to nullify a buff, and this can just be so annoying on defense because it includes dexterity. So he can just nullify dexterity, and then he just gets a bunch of power, he SP2s you, and it's just game over. It is just not a fun time, and it is a great defensive investment, but also on attack, it is a great way of dealing with some pretty annoying buffs that are just very constant as well, at Mag Sig at least. So it is a very nice ability for sure. It does a lot for him on both attack and defense, but it does harm him sometimes, so that's why it's not like in the top tier of class gem worthy abilities. But yeah, still very solid overall in my opinion. And next up is Dr. Voodoo, and Dr. Voodoo is quite the old gem, but still a pretty awesome champion. His awakened ability just really lets him shine. It does so much for him. It gives him increased ability accuracy. It gives him increased defensive ability accuracy as well. It does a lot for the champion, and it just really opens up his utility and his damage output as well. His somewhat damage output, right? But it still is a nice help for sure. It gives him extra buff duration too, and extra debuff duration as well. So it is just a very strong signature ability, and it's definitely worth investing into, I feel like. So Dr. Voodoo, quite the old gem, but still has some tricks for sure, and to unlock those tricks, really wants to be awakened. Next up is Symbiote Supreme, the champion that I started my old gems reboot with. I love Symbiote so much, he's so much fun to play. And whenever he is awakened, he gets an extra stagger on the opponent every up to 10 seconds, which is just a pretty potent stagger. So it makes him an even better buff controller. It makes him less RNG like filled, and it is just a pretty nice investment for sure. Symbiote Supreme is still a great champion, still has some of the best buff control in the game, and when he's awakened, he gets even better buff control. So he is like pretty much, honestly, maybe the best buff controller out there. Just a very strong champion and a very good ability as well. Now, last but not least is America Chavez, and whenever she is awakened, she gets increased potency to her Dimensional Energy Infusion, which gives her increased attack rating, and it does a pretty solid job at just giving her more damage output. It is not the most necessary thing out there, however, so that's why it is not in the top tier of Clash Gem contenders, but it is a pretty nice help, especially in those high buff matchups. So yeah, America Chavez, great champion, great ability, but just not completely necessary, right? And yeah, these are my secondary Clash Gem contenders. Now let's talk about the defensive powerhouses. And these champions I think are worth Clash Gems for sure. So first up is Mephisto, and this man has had a wild resurrection on defense. What his ability does is, whenever he is struck, he has a chance to proc the Aura of Incineration, and this just makes him so annoying. He has a bunch of energy damage just coming towards you. Additionally, he has a lot of power gain as well, and these two things just make him an insanely annoying defender if you don't have like Torch and a few other champions. He is so annoying on defense and is 1000% worth a Clash Gem if you want to invest in a pretty annoying defender. So yeah, Mephisto, super annoying champion. Honestly, he is arguably worth a generic gem with how annoying he is, but I would say just Clash Gem for now because yeah, this man is a pain. He is so annoying without like Human Torch or whatever. Yeah, Mephisto at rank 4 too, or like rank 5 even. Oh, that is just the worst. But next up is Sasquatch, who is probably even more annoying to be honest. So what his Awaken ability does is he gets a regen at low health, and this regen is based off of missing health. And it is a pretty massive regen because his health pool is just insanely high already. And additionally, whenever he enters Wrath of Tenarak, I hope I said that right. Whenever he enters that, he goes unstoppable on his heavy attacks and special attacks. So yeah, he just becomes very annoying to deal with because you pair this with his highest health pool in the game and you have a very annoying defender. So Sasquatch is still a massive pain and it's just so annoying to deal with, and I just cannot stand Sasquatch. I love the guy, but I just cannot stand fighting him because that health pool paired with his unstoppable and his regen is just so annoying. And next up is Ebony Maw, and Ebony Maw is such an annoying champion to fight still. Whenever he is awakened, whenever the opponent misses, he inflicts degen onto them. So it is just a very annoying time because like one miss and you are just down. Like you just lose so much health, you lose your Battlegrounds matchup. It is just a very annoying time. But Ebony Maw still just super annoying to deal with and still has a ton of defensive value in 2023. Same thing with all these champions, right? And last but not least is the brand new Kindred. And this guy is making waves so fast. Oh my goodness, man. This dude on defense is unlike anything we've seen before, I feel like. This man is just so strong on defense. Whenever he is awakened, he gets increased degeneration potency based on missing health. And additionally, whenever he would be knocked out, he doesn't get knocked out. Very fun. And additionally inflicts a root passive of up to 6 seconds on like the champion that you're using to fight him. That is very fun. And you pair that with the degen, you pair that with just everything that this guy has, and it is just, oh my gosh, such an annoying time. Of course, over time he'll lose defensive value, but right now he is just one of the best defensive investments to make. So yeah, Kindred, just a very strong champion on defense, and all these champions are just crazy good defenders still. And next up are the fun investments. So first up is Mangog, who gets a pretty nice benefit because whenever he is awakened, he gets increased attack rating per hatred and increased crit damage rating per hatred. Additionally, he gets increased hatred whenever a stagger expires naturally, or has a chance to anyway. And overall, Mangog is a very fun champion, very strong on defense, but also a pretty nice attacker as well in the right matchup. So yeah, Mangog, pretty cool character. Next up is Ghost Rider, who gets a pretty massive Fury buff, and it does help his damage a lot, even though he still is a noodle with it, so that is a bit unfortunate. But yeah, Ghost Rider's still a very fun champion, but just a bit outdated. Next up is Guillotine, who gets ruptures instead of bleeds against bleed immune opponents, which is a very nice help, and Guillotine still has some pretty good use, especially in that Mystic event quest, so she has a lot of use there, so she is a pretty cool investment. Morningstar gets an extra soul at the start of the quest, and that helps her a lot. Also gives her some buff copying mechanics, which is pretty cool. But Morningstar, because of her ramp up, is just super painful to use in my opinion still. Next up is Purgatory, who gets a pretty easier way of capturing her souls. And Purgatory is a lot of fun to play. She has some pretty decent damage output, and it's just a very cool character animations wise. So yeah, if you want to invest in the character, I think she does want Sig 1 for sure. Last is Thor Jane Foster, who gets some pretty good ability power rate manipulation whenever she has a shock on the opponent, which is pretty sweet. And yeah, overall, these champions are just pretty dang fun. Not really worth class gems, but still a very fun time to like mess around with. And I just would not bother with these characters. Some of them have some pretty great mechanics, like without their awakened ability. For example, Claire, Dragon Man, Sigil Witch, or Mordo. But their signature abilities are just pretty bad. Mordo's might be the best one in here, but it still really just is okay. The other characters are just either straight up bad or just like not good enough to be, you know, gem worthy. But yeah, these guys, some of them are just great champions that don't need to be awakened in the slightest. Some other ones are just, yeah, just not it, right? But yeah, these are my just do not bother options. But yeah, we have reached the end of this guide. Let me know your thoughts on it. What changes would you make? I am still 50-50 on some placements for sure. And yeah, that's about it for me.